Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Joining us now is our great friend Maria Espinosa from the Remembrance Project. Maria, how you been?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much, Kevin.
You know, we take a look at the battle going on for the border wall, and it's not a national emergency. It is a national emergency. As someone who has started an organization along with her husband to remember those who have fallen because of the folks that were caught and released that have been here illegally, is it a national emergency?
It's absolutely a national emergency for several years as well, especially under the Obama administration, which I think that was a call out by Obama and the Democrats for people to come here and create these caravans and with the intention of invading our country. Oh, absolutely. And all we have to do, Kevin, is point to those innocent Americans who were viciously murdered by someone who shouldn't be here. There's your not a manufactured crisis.
Well, and yet the media wants to give the criminals and the illegals and the bad people the benefit of the doubt. Why?
Oh, my goodness. Several reasons. Number one is I think you have people who have sold out the American citizenry and our country and think that they're cushioned, and they are, like the Pelosi's, with tons of security behind tall walls themselves, and their families are safe. But also you're looking at, on the Republican side, they've sold out to the U.S. Chambers of Commerce, the hotel, restaurant, construction industries. They accept that blood money, we call it, for their reelection campaign coffers. But yet our children, our loved ones are feeling America's coffins. So, you have so many things going on here, but I think a lot of it has to do, you see this push for socialism, that some of these individuals simply do not like our Western culture, do not like America for whatever warped reason. And this socialism push, all they have to do is take a look at Venezuela. Is that what we want in our country? We're making this country a third world nation, and it's starting with illegal immigration and the chaos that it brings.
Of course, you listen to some of the new Democrats in Congress, and they say socialism is there.
Right. It's outrageous. We have a fantastic Constitution that has done us very well as a country, and look at American ingenuity and the ability to achieve an American dream. That is what people strive for. That is why other countries, I think, push their citizens into America, because they know that Americans are good and generous people, and that we're going to take care of their citizens. Obviously, America is a place to be, but we have to be smart and understand that we have to preserve America so that, well, let's put it this way, we're the last beacon of freedom in the entire world. You can see what's going on in Europe as well, but socialism is not the way to go. And, if you want to work hard for your hard-earned dollar bills and then share that with the person who was going to sit on their laurels and expect you to feed them and their entire family, well, that's what socialism will look like. And again, I was looking on social media and I saw a little meme that said, why do Americans not want socialism? Well, we prefer to walk our pets, not eat them. That's a little bit gross, but that's the truth in going on right now in Venezuela.
I'm with you. Maria Espinosa joining us from the Remembrance Project on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. Although, let's get back to some of the stuff that the news media doesn't report it. I really miss our old friend Bill O'Reilly on Fox News, because he really took issue with the crimes that were being committed. And in Idaho so far, we've been blessed by this, but I've lived in destination states like North Carolina, like Alabama, like Tennessee, where you've had crimes committed by people that were caught and released and were supposed to be deported, were supposed to be imprisoned, and they've committed violent crimes, and yet you have the media debunking these as if we're all kooks.
That's just hard to believe, Kevin, and that's part of the problem, well, the huge problem with the media not reporting this fake news. And, that's why we need everyone out there to be a voice for the voiceless, for those who no longer have a voice. And, you mentioned, yes, that we are releasing these criminals. There is a young lady, Casey Chadwick, in Connecticut, and she was only 25 years old, where a man who was from Haiti and had already spent 17 years in prison for attempted murder on a separate case. He was attempted to be deported, but 3 times we tried to deport him back to his country of origin, Haiti, and they refused. And we allowed him to roam our streets. We set him free because Haiti would not return him. And he went on to kill this young lady, young American, who is greatly missed by her parents. She was taking classes to further her education, and here her life was snuffed out because of this lawlessness. But we must demand that we repatriate these individuals. But this is one case, and there are so many cases where the individual, the illegal alien, was deported 3, 4, 5, 10 times. He had committed had previous convictions, whether they were DUI or theft or whatnot. But and also think about this: the only interior enforcement we have for immigration is ICE, and the Democrats want to abolish ICE. They've kicked out ICE from some of the jails all across the United States, and now they're trying to minimize the number of, or decrease the number of beds. There's only about 48,000 beds for detaining these illegal aliens within the United States, and there are over 800,000 estimates of illegal aliens who are here and should be detained and not roaming around our streets. And we don't even know where they are. We don't know who they are. So there's a lot wrong going on right now, Kevin.
How much do you support the president, Maria?
Oh, 100%. And, we were, I guess, on the Trump train on day one when he said those words about Mexico not sending their best. And he was absolutely correct. No one else, Kevin, had even looked our way. The Remembrance Project was created nearly 10 years ago. We started at the end of 2009, and no one was listening. We sent letters to every governor in the United States asking them to help and assist the victims in their states with certain things, especially navigate through the court system, because our families were not getting the information, not getting the date of the hearings, and even being denied a victim impact statement when the illegal alien was convicted. So there is so much. It's backwards right now, and President Trump is the only man who stepped up, embraced the Remembrance Project, embraced our angel moms and dads, and he is trying to do something as far as securing this nation and putting Americans first. And here we have Democrats and Republicans obstructing him.
Well, and you're right, and he brings up the angel moms and dads. No one has done that before. Finally, Maria, how important is the wall?
Absolutely a must. I've been along the entire southern border. I've been on a night watch also, Kevin, and have seen through night vision these illegal aliens that had already crossed 60 miles into the interior, and they were carrying large backpacks, which the Border Patrol agents felt that they were loaded with drugs. So, we have a very porous border. We need a wall system. We know seismic. And whatever technology it takes, that's what it takes to secure America, and that's what needs to be done.
Maria, if people want more information about the Remembrance Project, what can they do?
Go to our website, theremembranceproject.org, and send an email to director@the Remembrance Project. And Kevin, we are certainly looking for volunteers. We have a brand new CRM that we're going to launch this month as a database. We're inputting the information there because evidently so many states, Texas does a decent job of tracking these crimes by illegal aliens, but most states do not. So we want to put that information out there and be able to show it to the entire public so that everyone knows what's going on right here in our own country.
Well, it's unfortunate that the media doesn't do their job.
It really is, and we all have to band together and share the information. We also have to recruit for the upcoming elections for 2020. We need to identify good candidates, Kevin, and support them in every way, and get those candidates who will place Americans first and legislate for the betterment of American citizens. And this year, I mentioned our 10-year anniversary. And the first weekend in October, we're holding another national conference. Our first conference we had as a keynote speaker, and very honored to have Donald Trump there. Our second national conference was in Washington, D.C. Our keynote there was Steve Bannon and many other good speakers. So this it's going to be difficult to top those two. But we'll have another national conference, and we're going to hold it in Houston, Texas.
Well, Maria, thank you for all your great work, and you take care now.
Thank you. You too. God bless you, Kevin.
God bless you, Maria. That's our friend Maria Espinosa from the Remembrance Project. Phone number's here at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You know, we always talk about the liberal media trying to eliminate conservatives. They've made a run at Sean Hannity. They've tried to get rid of Laura Ingraham. And now our own Tucker Carlson. If you missed it last night on The Tucker Show, remember, Fox News exclusively on the radio right here in the Treasure Valley. Tucker responded to Media Matters, the pro-liberal organization that seeks to silence conservatives.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. As anyone who's ever been caught in its gears can tell you, the great American outrage machine is a remarkable thing. One day you're having dinner with your family, imagining everything is fine. The next, your phone is exploding with calls from reporters. They read you snippets from a press release written by Democratic Party operatives. They demand to know how you could possibly have said something so awful and offensive. Do you have a statement on how immoral you are? It's a bewildering moment, especially when the quotes in question are more than a decade old. There's really not that much you can do to respond. It's pointless to try to explain how the words were spoken in jest or taken out of context, or in any case bear no resemblance to what you actually think or would want for the country. None of that matters. Nobody cares. You know the role you're required to play. You are a sinner begging the forgiveness of Twitter. So you issue a statement of deep contrition. You apologize profusely for your transgressions. You promise to be a better person going forward. With the guidance of your contrition consultants, you send money to whatever organization claims to represent the people you supposedly offended. Then you sit back and brace for a wave of stories about your apology, all of which are simply pretexts for attacking you again. In the end, you get fired. You lose your job. Nobody defends you. Your neighbors avert their gaze as you pull into the driveway. You are ruined. And yet, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how despised and humiliated you may be, there is one thing you can never do, one thing that is absolutely not allowed. You can never acknowledge the comic absurdity of the whole thing. You can never laugh in the face of the mob. You must always pretend that the people yelling at you are somehow your moral superiors. You have to assume that what they say they're mad about is what they're actually mad about. You have to take them at face value. You must pretend this is a debate about virtue and not about power. That your critics are arguing from principle and not from partisanship. No matter what they take from you in the end, you must continue to pretend that these things are true. You are bad. They are good.
There we have it from Tucker Carlson from last night on The Tucker Show. And really what happened, years ago, Tucker Carlson was on a radio program, and he said some things that contained adult language, adult content. So what did this group do? They went and spliced everything together, took it to his sponsors, and they're seeking to get rid of Tucker Carlson, just like they tried to do to Sean, although you'll never get Sean on a radio show saying the things that Tucker Carlson said. Tucker, a little younger, a little bit more aggressive, and really Tucker Carlson got his career as a writer, but really made it as a media person at a very young age. In fact, we can thank Tucker Carlson for Rachel Maddow. She was initially on his program many, many years ago on MSNBC. He's been on CNN and MSNBC and now Fox. Now, the troubling part about this is it's not what Tucker said today. It's what he said 10 years ago. And the idea of the thought police. Can you remember, dear friend, when we used to joke about 1984? Can you remember when we used to joke about, oh, they're going to silence us? Can you remember when we used to joke about people in the closet and we used to say, one day we're going to be in the closet? Well, that's really what it's come down to, where you have folks deciding that Tucker Carlson, Fox News, Kevin Miller, Sean Hannity, Lars Larson, they're too dangerous. And I've been through this. That's why I'm always on guard about this area, because it doesn't take long for people to label you a name. I will tell you, between us, people have gone to people that have supported this program and labeled me a right-wing extremist. Now, you go to a real right-wing extremist or people that listen to this program, and they say I'm moderate at best, milquetoast on a good day. But their agenda is to eliminate programs like this and Tucker Carlson. And we must make ourselves aware of it. We must promote these shows if we agree with their values. You know, we had a young lady on talking about people killed by the illegals that have entered this country illegally. It isn't picked up by the press. The press goes out of their way to give the other side of the story. Coming up, you're going to hear from White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, who is condemning the comments by Representative Omar. And all of a sudden, you had the White House press corps defending the anti-Semitic comments of a congresswoman who happens to be a refugee from Somalia and openly Muslim about her comments concerning being anti-Semitic. The press didn't hold her accountable. They didn't have an issue with her foibles, but they seem to go after people of conservatism, and that's just how it is, unfortunately. And that's why there'll always be, hopefully, a space for us here if hopefully they don't have their way with us. Again, whether it's Sean or Tucker, and that's what happened to me in Pennsylvania. Very simply, it was just an organized effort. Wasn't true, but how do you disprove a negative after the fact? You don't. So Tucker's taking to the airwaves. I agree with him. We'll talk about it next. Kevin Miller on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. And good morning, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So it was a great day, I suppose, at the White House. They had, once again, the annual, it seems like an annual these days, press secretary press briefing between Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Sarah Sanders, if you will, and the press. And one of the big conversational pieces was the president's statement concerning Representative Omar and the Democratic Party and the fact that you can make anti-Semitic comments and not be held accountable by your caucus. Well, instead of examining Representative Omar, by the way, look, you have a life, so you went out and I'm sure had a good time. Maybe you were at church. Maybe after church you went out to eat. Maybe you did some yard work. You didn't watch the Sunday shows. Well, I did, and you would not believe how many people in the press defended Representative Omar. They used yesterday as an opportunity to attack Donald Trump. We'll tell you about it next. First, traffic and weather together.
7's Eric Gabbard.
Does the president really believe Democrats hate Jews?
Look, the president's been an unwavering and committed ally to Israel and the Jewish people. And frankly, the remarks that have been made by a number of Democrats and failed to be called out by Democrat leadership is frankly abhorrent, and it's sad.
Does he think Democrats hate Jewish people, as he said on the South?
I think that they've had a lot of opportunities over the last few weeks to condemn some abhorrent comments. I'm trying to answer. If you'd stop talking, I'll finish my statement.
Yes.
The president has had and laid out clearly his position on this matter. Democrats have had a number of opportunities to condemn specific comments and have refused to do that. That's a question, frankly, I think you should ask Democrats what their position is, since they're unwilling to call this what it is and call it out by name and take actual action.
There you have it. Sarah Sanders going toe-to-toe with the liberal media. The same liberal media that covers up for Representative Omar and her comments. Of course, you're not going to hear that in other areas, in other places, because, well, they're perhaps in on it. They don't want to sit there and hold people accountable. You know, the Republican Party doesn't have a problem throwing their own under the bus. The Republican Party doesn't have a problem condemning people like Congressman Steve King for saying things that they deemed unacceptable. And yet the Democratic Party in the House, they're scared of Representative Omar. They're scared of Ocasio-Cortez. They're scared. And you're thinking to yourself, what are they scared of? This new wave of progressive socialist liberal that they can't control. It's unfortunate they've let that comment slide again and again and again. And as I've said on this program, I've said it on national television, when you're a Republican, you're held to a higher standard. That's true. Coming up next, Nancy Pelosi says, well, impeachment is for losers. Yeah, well, maybe not, but let's hear what she had to say. We'll get to that in a minute. You're listening to Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good morning, Kevin.
And let's go to Evan Brown joining us from Fox News Radio. Your home for Fox News in the Treasure Valley, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Evan, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
So here we have it, the cost of going back to the moon.
Well, it's not the cost of it, but NASA's budget is now slated to be cut a little bit by about $480 million, but they'll still be getting a little bit more than $21 billion. And they say that they are on their way to completing or enacting the president's goal of having a lunar gateway base, meaning we would have a facility on the moon from which we could take off to go on deep space missions to Mars, most likely. And aside from that, the Space Launch Vehicle, which is the replacement for the Space Shuttle, if you will, the taxpayer-funded vehicle of exploration, that is still being worked on a bit. Some design changes are needed, but where we thought we would launch in 2020 will now be the early 2020s for the first launch of the Space Launch System. And that's really not that far away. Next year is 2020. So early 2020s means we'll do this in a few years.
Boy, Evan, as someone who's covered NASA for years, from its, I guess, Obama cutbacks to where it is today, do they have the infrastructure? We've kind of gotten dependent on the Soviets. But
they have all the infrastructure they need. The dependency on the Russians for transportation to and from the space station had been devised during the Bush administration, as they had needed to have their time to end the shuttle program and to start up the commercial space sector, which has been going gangbusters. We have had for many years now SpaceX and Orbital ATK providing the cargo transportation. We just saw a couple of weeks ago SpaceX demonstrate its human-capable spacecraft. And in this summer, SpaceX will make its first transportation of humans, NASA astronauts on contract for NASA going to and from the space station. Boeing will follow suit with their spacecraft perhaps shortly after. And this has been done by having the commercial sector rent out portions of the Kennedy Space Center in Florida and fitting it for their needs. So we are not at a lack of infrastructure by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I was going to say intellectual infrastructure based on, again, and as you've covered, just how we've shopped this out, but we still have the scientists and the folks there to make this happen?
Well, all the people who went to work for SpaceX and Boeing and Orbital and all these other companies, they used to work at NASA and will likely be helping out NASA with these projects going forward. So because NASA will be relying on the commercial sector for a good amount of this, especially with transportation to the moon. Yeah, the infrastructure, the intellectual capital has not really gone anywhere. They've just taken up different offices.
Boy, isn't that unique how, as you're detailing this for us, Eben, how it's different from how we did this in the past, where it was all the government. Now, if I'm understanding this correctly, it'll be a public-private partnership?
Correct. It'll be private companies working on contract for NASA. Which is what we were doing. And
right.
That's what's so interesting about it is, NASA doesn't need to know how to figure out how to get to orbit or really even to the moon anymore. They already know how to do that. And when NASA does it, it's expensive because it's a government operation. So the ability to turn this over to the private sector that NASA can then pay for in terms of, buying seats or carriage space or whatever is a savings to taxpayers. And the private sector is doing it on a very efficient basis. And think of it somewhat akin to, we had explorers from Europe that discovered America and figured out how to get to and from the New World. safely and with regularity, and then a lot of that business was turned over to private industry at the time to run those routes on behalf and on contract to the governments of Europe, which were very much, the monarchs of Europe at the time. So it's very similar to that model. Of course, we're not transporting slaves to the moon or anything like that, but the ability to turn these essential trucking routes over to the private sector gives us a lot of flexibility as taxpayers.
Eben, we always appreciate your insight and on-the-field reporting. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
I think Eben got a little defensive there when we were talking about the end of NASA, but love his passion and really appreciate Eben Brown from Fox News Radio. And it's good to have some passion in the morning at this hour, right? Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We continue on the legislative watch. Supporters of a citizen vote on the new Boise Main Library and the stadium just won a big victory thanks to Mike Moyle, who put up this bill. I believe it passed the House. Mayor Beater's upset. And it really comes down to an overall, I guess, topic for all of us at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We are in a constitutional republic. But when it comes to building new items, when it comes to urban renewal, Tea Party Bob's a big fan of urban renewal. When it comes to everything else, do we trust our politicians to just make this happen? Now, again, you have the pro-stadium propaganda that it'd be great for Boise. Well, the Treasure Valley is not just the city of Boise. Is it the state's capital? Yes. It is a big part of it? Yes. Is it everything? No. Quite frankly, I think if you were going to build a stadium that would suit the entire community, you would do it in Meridian, the center of the Treasure Valley, or Nampa, perhaps, where you could pull in people from Ontario and the like, and Boise. It wouldn't be that too big of a drive. But you have a lot of politicians that are very Boise-centric, and rightfully so. On the other hand, you have people such as myself that live and love the hinterlands and love the free parking, less taxes, more for your money, and are about that. But when you think of a big, expensive project that's going to cost somebody a lot of money, I mean, the downtown library, Nampa got theirs through thanks to the efforts of Canyon County Commissioner, then Mayor of Nampa, Tom Dale. On the other hand, you take a look at the library right now in the city of Boise. Do you really need a new one? Do you really need a new downtown stadium? And people are saying, look, the USSISL or whatever, soccer league, will play. Are many people going to come to downtown in the hot, oppressive summer, not go camping, not go vacationing and watch soccer? I don't know. But to use public funds for it, is that the best use of public works, considering our infrastructure needs, considering everything else? So it comes down to this. When we take a look at making the people more responsive, on one hand, you have the state legislature saying, we're not too down with these referendums anymore. We want to make it a little bit more challenging because we're tired of the Californians, the Oregonians coming in here and passing Medicaid expansion, passing everything else, possibly passing medical marijuana. So we're going to raise the bar a little. I think that's fair because of concerns of undue outside progressive influences. And then you have people that say, I'm tired of the city of Boise through an act of Dave Beater, the Mayor Beater, waving a magic wand, all of a sudden building things without any public input. Right? You know, the new baseball stadium for Boise State, eminent domain. Move out the folks there. The new downtown baseball stadium. I didn't know baseball was so popular. And then we can use it for soccer. And it would be great for the community, and I'm sure it would be. You know, the one in downtown Reno is wonderful. It's quaint. It's nice. But are we willing to spend those funds on that? And would the lawmakers be more responsive to the people deciding as opposed to them making the calls for us? Again, the difference between a democracy where one person, one vote, and a republic where we elect people to make the calls. It comes down to how much faith you have in your elected officials. Bill in Cuna, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller.
Yeah, I just found out that we're got a CUNA levy, and they're trying to sneak something through again and didn't let anybody know at all. And I'm wondering if maybe you could put on your agenda with the state legislatures to pass some law that say they can do this only on voting days rather than whenever they feel like it in the middle of the day when we don't have time to go out and vote against it.
I think that's been proposed a few times, Bill, but you're right about that. And you have school systems around the area, when they don't get something done, they keep going and keep going and keep going at a cost to the taxpayers until they get it done.
Right, and it's like that's kind of like extortion as far as I'm concerned, by not letting anybody know. Oh, by the way, all the teachers know about it, so they can go vote themselves a raise or whatever. But what about all the people who say, hey, we got a lot of people moving out to CUNA. There's a lot of people coming in, and they're, all these things are coming in for taxes, and all these things are coming in for, it's like, well, you get more money when more people come in, so why do you need so much more? Because you get so much per kid. Everything seems to be expanding money-wise, but yet now they want more money. It's like all of a sudden it seems like they're just taxing us to death. You know what I mean? It's like, but you get to do subdivisions going in, and they take money for that. And I'm sure that the city is getting a lot of money. All the different things are getting money, and I don't know. It just seems like, oh, we need more money all the time. It's like, come on, guys. Find out why, at least let us know why, and tell us when the voting is, so it'll be a fair election rather than just kind of sneak it through and learn about it on the radio news in the morning when you're on your way to work. Okay?
Duly noted, Bill. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. And that's really what, we're it's either boom or bust. Several years ago it was bust. Now it's booming. And whether you live in CUNA, whether you live in Star, wherever you live, we're getting pounded by people coming in. As one of my many side careers, photography, still working on that. Digital photography, still working on that. Just haven't got any clients yet. No, I'm thinking of joining everybody else and doing real estate on the side. That's what everybody else does. Why? Because it's so lucrative. Why? Because people are moving in. And yet, do we have a Marshall Plan for the state of Idaho? I can remember, just a year ago, where we had people running for governor and saying, well, we need to do this. Well, we need to do that. And, of course, we had the mantra of repealing the grocery tax, which has been put on hold, and we will continue to cover that. We will continue to hold those folks accountable. I mean, really, how much would it cost to repeal the state's grocery tax? I'd like a hearing on that. Wouldn't you? I mean, what's more important, this issue concerning referendums or repealing the state grocery tax? Which impacts more people? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And this issue concerning whether or not you want to have the ability to say no to something. Well, then that's a democracy. That's not a republic. And you have people in Boise going, look, I'm glad that Mike Moyle put this in the legislative process. I'm glad it passed the House. According to published reports, Dave Beater hopes it dies in the Senate. I don't think that it will. I think that we're going to have an issue now when it's urban renewal, when it's expansion. People are going to have a right to vote on it, and they should.
Impeachment is a divisive issue in our country. When the facts are known, then we'll make a judgment then. There
you have it, Nancy Pelosi saying no impeachment. We'll talk about it next. Time to join the conversation on the right side, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. All right, Kevin Miller in the morning, taking your phone calls. We go to Steve on the freeway. Good morning, Steve. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Howdy. Hey, I grew up here, and I moved to Utah for a while and came back, but we had something that was really disruptive in Utah. They wanted to put a soccer field in for Real Salt Lake, and we all voted against it. So we said we did not want any money, public money, going towards it. Well, even though we said that, the guy, I can't remember his name, but he ended up getting the money for Real Salt Lake, later selling it and pocketing the money. I think he made like $43 million off of it. And he had done this for the Utah Jazz before Larry Miller got a hold of it. So, we always have to take a look at really where's the money going? Why do people really want to do this? And what's going to be the outcome? Because I thought it was pretty sad that we voted against it. Not only did he get the money, but when he sold it, there was no payback. You see what I'm saying?
Indeed. And so that's your point about the soccer stadium here would be?
Beware. Beware of what's really going on. Why does somebody want to push something so much? What's in it for them? Because I jokingly said I'm going to put one of those equestrian parks out by the dump. I was just joking with my wife, and then I said I'm going to get all the federal money and state money and then sell it and retire. So when a person wants to put these things in, and right now they're not very popular, what's really going on? Because somebody somewhere is making money. And we just need to remember that. Everything in politics, everything that's happening somewhere, follow the money and see who's going to end up with it in the end, and you can see where the strings are being pulled. I just wanted to call and share that with your listeners, what happened with Utah, because that was a fact that we voted against it, and we still got it. The guy sold it and kept the money. Now, how fair is that?
I would agree with you on that. And that does happen where people, they just ignore the will of the people.
And I don't know how they get it done. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I wish I could do it, because then I would just, take advantage of everybody. But no, seriously, it's wrong. It's morally wrong, and we really need to find out why the mayor want to put a soccer stadium in, especially here where now Utah's population was a lot bigger in Salt Lake County than it is here. And I'd like to know how they're going to keep a soccer stadium going here, because I don't see it.
Now, you remember the big soccer match between, wasn't it the Basque Country and like the third-rate USA team, not the upper division, and it was going to sell out Bronco Stadium, and they had to paper the crowd, and it was, in my opinion, a financial loss. Remember that one? Remember how, it was soccer was going to be huge here, and it was going to be this international event, and nobody showed up?
Yeah, I remember a little bit about it.
And nobody covered the fact that it was a big loss. All right, Steve, thank you for the call. Let's go to Max in Garden City with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Max.
Good morning, Kevin. I just wanted to talk about Nancy Pelosi for a minute. I want to take my hat off and say, lady, you are not stupid. She's a brilliant politician. Over the last few months, she's watched her party slowly disintegrate as all of the totally wacko members are garnering more and more support, and she's struggling to keep a grip as Speaker of the House. This latest, impeachment speech of hers is a part of backing off, getting away from the Looney Tunes, the total liberal wackos, to a little more centrist position to keep her job. She knows they could never impeach the president. She has no doubt she has seen the Mueller report, and this latest statement allows her to distance herself from the Maxine Waters and the AOCs. You agree?
Well, I would agree with you on that, but I'm terribly disappointed. I want them to bring impeachment. Just bring it, don't sing it, and let's see what happens. The idea that we can say all this stuff, it's kind of just like your typical ne'er-do-well politics. What do? They talk a big fight, but when it's time to put down, well, Nancy, you promised compromise. We haven't gotten compromise. You promised that you're going to get along. That's not the case. Your people have promised impeachment. Let's bring it. Let's really see if the American people back you and your acolytes in the liberal media.
I think what's really sad is the fact that the American people, by and large, are gullible enough and stupid enough and apathetic enough to allow politicians all the way from Beater here in Boise to Pelosi in Washington, allowing these people to lie in our face, to insult us, to treat the funds like their own piggy bank, to do what they want to do. And what do we do to punish them? We reelect them because people just don't care, Kevin.
They care when it impacts them. You heard Steve and the other gentleman, Bill, when all of a sudden all these folks are moving in and the quality of life is gone.
Well, Steve and Bill are exceptions to the rule. Like you, like me, they vote. I have no doubt they make phone calls, write letters, send emails to their politicians, trying to hold their feet to the fire. But we are a minority, a distinct minority, because most people, as long as they can still buy a Whopper meal for under $5, and as long as they can afford to fill their tank, really care. And that's sad.
All right.
You take care, buddy.
God bless. Traffic and weather together. And I'm Kevin Miller on your home for Fox News on the radio in the Treasure Valley. That is the one, the only, Idaho's first radio station. KIDO Talk Radio, available on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Your home for the Big Fox. Fox News Now. Stay tuned.